Many doubted we'd ever see it, but here it is.
You just don't know when to give up, do you?
I can do this all day.
The inbound pass comes into Jordan. Here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win! They win it!
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner by knockout.
Good start for DeGrasse. Holt stumbles, regains his footing, and now he's trailing. Has some work to do. DeGrasse, meantime, pressing for the lead. Usain Bolt coming up. Bolt looking over his shoulder, and he gets there in time.
I'll be back. I'll be back.
I'll be back.
I'll be back. And I am back.
The return to glory.
Red 5, I'm going in.
Toss to White. He's in. Patriots win the Super Bowl. What a comeback.
Have you ever come home and your home was not the way you left it? Maybe you returned home and the dogs had destroyed the place, or your kids had. Or maybe even someone had broken in. I was just a little kid. My parents had taken me to the park, and we began returning home. But when we got there, things were different. I discovered that our house had been taken over by the San Diego SWAT team. It was the strangest thing. As I walked up to the house, the door was wide open, which is not how we left it. There was a helicopter above our house. There were cop cars all over the street, and I didn't know what to expect. I couldn't see anyone in our house, but I could hear voices, and I said, "Hello?" And there was a voice hiding behind our couch, and he said, "This is the San Diego Police and Bomb Squad. You can come back in 2 hours." So I was like, okay. And we went back to the park, and it was a strange feeling to come to our home and then not letting us into our house. So we went to the park, and I'm trying to figure out, did I do something? Did they know about how I yelled at my brother? What happened? We get home, and the door is closed. We open it. There's no one in our house. And I go upstairs, and I find out that the SWAT team had taken over our house. In fact, they put a sniper in my bedroom with a gun looking into our neighbor's backyard, something I'd always wanted to do. And then I looked down, and one of the SWAT team had stepped on my toy. And I cherished that toy. I thought it was the coolest thing. You got stepped on by the SWAT team in my bedroom. I thought it was so cool. But it was a weird feeling to not be allowed to come home and see your door open and other people who you didn't invite are in your house. And that must have been what the people of Judah felt like when they came home. If you were here last month on Palm Sunday, I introduced you to the people of Judah. Here's a picture from that message. The people of Judah have been through so much. Most of you probably know the story, but if not, let me do a quick refresher. The people of Judah, they had been slaves in Egypt, and they got delivered from that, and all they wanted to do was find their own home. And they have to fight for that home, and they finally get to this land that they call the Promised Land, but everyone's always trying to take that land from them. And then this empire called Assyria invades, and they attack the people of Israel in the north, and people of Judah are in the south, and they watch as friends and family are taken away and murdered and tortured. And then Judah, the people of Judah, find themselves being captured by Babylon. Babylon takes them away hundreds of miles from home. They find themselves far from home in a foreign country that hates them. They find themselves under the oppression of Babylon, and they dream of the day that they could go home. They pray and they write poems and they write stories about the day that one day we're going to have our great comeback. We're going to have a glorious homecoming. One day we're going to go back to the land of our ancestors. We're going to go home. And they encourage each other for years and years and years. And then the day arrives. A day comes when they get to make a super, super long journey, a hike, hundreds of miles. And they begin walking back, and they're filled with joy and laughter and dancing, and they're singing songs, and they're so excited. But when they get home, they discover other people have moved into their houses, and their city had been set on fire. They find that the city gates have been destroyed. The walls of the city are broken, and they're covered in ash, ruins and rubble. There are people who literally moved in and took their homes from them. The land has been ravished, the homes are destroyed, the city is in ruins. And what was supposed to be a glorious homecoming, what was supposed to be an epic comeback, feels more like a terrible setback. Today we're on part 5 of a series called Comebacks. But specifically, I want to talk to you today about what you do when your comeback feels more like a setback. Raise your hand if you've ever had what was supposed to be a comeback feel more like a setback. Anybody with me? I don't know if you play sports, but have you ever had this moment happen where maybe your basketball team was behind like the whole game, they were losing, and they start coming back, and you're like, oh yeah, it's just gonna be our comeback, and then they pass you the ball with 2 seconds left. And then you're thinking like, this is my moment. Finally a girl will want to date me. This isn't a specific example to me, and you go and you shoot, and you miss, and you're the reason your team lost, and what was supposed to be a great comeback feels like a setback. Anyone feel, not my pain, but feel that pain? I have some examples for you of people very close to me, of comebacks that have felt more like setbacks. Maybe you're a mom and you have a teenage daughter and she's in high school and she's not herself anymore, man. She started dating this boy and it's a toxic relationship, and then the day comes where she breaks up with him. And her smile is back. Her joy is back. And you look at her and you see her eyes and you're like, that's my baby girl. That's the girl I raised. That's the girl I know. And it feels like this great comeback. And then you get a phone call from the school. The ambulance arrived. She was cutting herself and they've taken her to the hospital, and you didn't even know she was depressed. I remember having to walk a family through that exact scenario when a comeback felt more like a setback. Maybe you were raised in a family that struggled with poverty, and you got to be the first one in your family to buy a home, to have a home to call your own, and you're on Pinterest and you're coming up with ideas, and you're watching Chip and Joanna Gaines and HGTV, and you're like, I'm gonna steal that idea and that idea. You're so excited to build your home and decorate it, and right when you move into your home, the job that supported that bill changes. Maybe the company is moving, or they're downsizing, or you lose that job, and you have to let someone else take your home from you. And what felt like a comeback now feels like a setback. Maybe you were in the military, and you're on that last tour. You're finally going to get to come back. It's going to be a glorious homecoming. You can't wait to see your kids. You're going to get to see them grow up. You're going to never have to miss Christmas again. And when you come home for your glorious homecoming, you discover that you can't sleep at night because of the PTSD. You hear loud noises and it triggers the memory, and your wife looks at you and she says, when are you going to come home? And you say, I am home. And she says, no, you're not. You're not the same man that left. And what was supposed to be a comeback feels more like a setback. Maybe the doctors diagnosed you with cancer. Out of the blue, you never saw it coming, and they removed part of your tongue. They did a bunch of surgeries, and they opened you up, but then they told you, all right, you're good. You can go back to your family, go back to your church, and so you get ready for your comeback. And you come back to your job and your church and your family, only to feel something back on your tongue and to have to get another biopsy and have the doctor call you and not tell you what's wrong, but rather tell you to go back in, and you know that means it's not good news. I was in that back room right behind the stage when I got that phone call. I thought this was my comeback. The cancer was gone. I couldn't wait to get back to what I love doing, and the doctor said, I need you to come in. And when I went to see him, he could see the hope in my eyes. He could see how badly I wanted a good report, so he couldn't look me in the eyes as he told me, I don't know what to tell you, but the cancer came back. It's borderline stage 4. If we don't operate on you, you're not going to live. And this time we're going to have to open you up even more. We're going to have to take most of your tongue. This time you're going to have to do chemotherapy and radiation for 8 weeks. This time, the next 12 months of your life, you're going to be a vegetable. You're not going to be the person you were. We don't know if you ever speak again or sing again. And what was supposed to be a great comeback feels more like a terrible setback. Today I want to talk to you about when comebacks feel like setbacks. Last Sunday, Arlene introduced us to this Bible character. His name was Nehemiah. Nehemiah is this amazing guy. He was actually a Jew who was born in Babylon. Babylon got taken over by Persia, but he wasn't born in his homeland. He was born in this foreign country that hated him, hated his people. He was a slave. He was oppressed. He was under their captivity, and he longed for the day that he could go home. He longed for the day that he might get to return to the land of his ancestors and just be home. And finally, that day comes. So he begins to make this journey home. And as I mentioned, when he gets there, he knew what to expect. He had heard that the walls had been destroyed, the gates were down, people had taken their homes. But when he gets there, he begins to rally the people. He says, come on guys, we are going to rebuild our life. We're going to rebuild this city. We're going to rebuild the wall and put the gates back in. We're going to get our homes back. Let's do this. He rallies everyone together and they begin building. It's going to be this great comeback. This is our moment of triumph. And right as they begin building, they get a cease and desist letter from the neighboring villages. And the letter just mocks them. It says, what do you think you're doing? You idiot. You think you can build a city? Have you ever built a city before? You guys look ridiculous. You know what? You need to just stop. And if you don't stop, we will make you stop. And all the people get discouraged. And so he rallies them back together. He rips up the letter and he says, come on, guys. We're not going to stop. Let's keep building. He begins to get more people in place, but all of a sudden, those people who wrote those hateful letters show up in person. And they stand on the outside of the wall and begin mocking them and yelling at them and ridiculing them as they build. And the Bible says that even the young daughters began building the wall. They needed as many people as they could get to build this wall quickly. And so you have these young girls who are getting calloused fingers as full-grown men yell and mock their family. Can you imagine you're there with your kids trying to build this wall as a giant protest arrives and begins yelling at your kids and at you and mocking you for your comeback, have you ever tried to come back and found that the people around you didn't support you? Maybe when you were younger, man, you got swept up in drugs and alcohol abuse, and you decide, nah, this is my comeback. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna get clean, I'm gonna get sober, only to have the friends who used to party with you mock you. Like, bro, you're just one of us, you're never gonna change. I've noticed that people either try to change you or don't let you change. People are always trying to change you to be more like them because it makes them feel more secure, or they don't like it when you start changing. Have you ever tried to come back and the people who should have been supporting you don't? They make fun of you, they tell you, dude, you'll be back. Yeah, right, you'll be back, bro. Have fun with that Jesus thing, it's not gonna last. And what was supposed to be a comeback feels more like a setback. You even tell your girl, hey, I'm getting clean, I'm getting sober. And she's like, I don't care, we're still like be together. And you're like, that's the only reason I was doing it. And what was supposed to be a comeback feels like a setback. Nehemiah and his people are trying to build the city, and everyone begins to mock them. And they begin to tell them, dude, we will fight you. If you keep building this, we will fight you. So Arlene explained how Nehemiah began to put people having weapons and just stationed all over the place, and then they wouldn't change their clothes. They would go to bed in what they were wearing. Some people wouldn't even sleep at night, and they just kept building that wall, trying to build that safety and that foundation, and constantly fighting discouragement. Raise your hand if you have ever fought discouragement. Keep your hand up if you are fighting it right now. Well, you guys are way more honest than first service. First service, they're like, oh, no. God is good, hallelujah. I'm not, but he is. Gotta smile at church and pretend I'm okay. Can't be honest. But man, we're struggling. And I want to talk to you about how to battle discouragement. And I want to tell you, if you're feeling discouraged, that is great news. I'm excited for you. That's awesome. Way to go. Pat yourself on the back. You're discouraged right now. Half of you are like, why? I forgot to tell you this. Nehemiah was under the protection of the king. He knew they're not going to fight us. They can't fight us. They can't beat us. The only thing they can do is discourage us, and that's the only weapon they have. And when you begin to realize that the only weapon that the enemy is using against you is discouragement, it should tell you he knows he can't beat you. It should tell you that he's actually nervous about your comeback. He's more scared of you than you are. So if you're battling discouragement, you should actually be encouraged right now, because that's all he's got. He can't beat you, only you can beat you. He only wins when you give up. And when you read scripture, you see the strategy of the enemy, man. He fights dirty. He fights you when you're vulnerable. He fights you right when you get a taste of victory. If you read, I don't have time to go through every Bible story, but when you read them, every time someone gets a little bit ahead, every time they get a taste of freedom and victory, the enemy strikes. He can't beat them, but he tries to get them to beat themselves. Discouragement is the weapon of a coward who can't win. So you need to be encouraged, because if he's fighting you with discouragement, it means you're winning. It means you started a comeback, and he knows you're making progress. And he can't stop you, but he can make you stop you. See, the goal of the enemy is to crush your spirit, to make you feel depressed and weak and make you want to give up. He fights dirty. And as soon as you begin that comeback, he hits you with discouragement. And see, God fights differently. I mean, God honestly is unpredictable. Like anyone who gets up here is like, God does this and that, and he's always going to do it this way. God is super creative. Like sometimes he'll heal someone right on the spot. I can't explain it. I've seen it happen. I don't know why it happens sometimes, not always. I couldn't tell you. Other times he uses doctors. In my case, he used amazing doctors and chemo and radiation. Sometimes he'll move a mountain out of your life, and other times he'll teach you how to climb. Sometimes he'll part the Red Sea, and other times he teaches you how to swim, or he brings a boat. And I don't know why. It's different for different people, but I know that there's a process that you go through, and often we want the process to change when he's trying to change you in the midst of the process. He's trying to build you and change you. And you're like, God, I want everything to change right now. I just want to be comfortable. I'll serve you if it's easy. But the strategy of the enemy is let them get a taste of freedom and then make them feel guilty for it. The enemy uses shame. He lets you take one step forward and then reminds you of what you came from and uses shame to get you to take 2 steps back. He fights dirty. And you know why? Because he can't actually beat you. He can't actually win. So if you're battling discouragement, be encouraged because you're in the middle of a comeback. And that might feel like a setback, but it is a comeback. Now last week, Arlene, she took us all the way up to Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 16. So we're going to pick up where she left off, and we're going to look at what Nehemiah does next. What we're about to talk about, they're called common laborers. It's the common people. It's people like you and me. These aren't soldiers. These aren't knights in shining armor. These are family members. These are moms and dads. These are the common people that Nehemiah is going to use to battle the discouragement. Are you ready to see what they do? Because we can learn something from this. So we ended at verse 16 last week. We're going to pick up at Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 17. Let's read this together. The common laborers held a tool in one hand. Thank you, Luis. Now, if you have no idea what just happened, I will try to explain. All you really need to know is this is a tool. This is a hammer. That's really all you need to know. But if you would like to know, this hammer belongs to my favorite superhero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Thor. And he does this thing where he'll put his hand out and the hammer will come to him. That's what just happened. We're going to edit out the green screen in post, and all you'll see is a hammer flying into my hand. It's going to be really top notch. Just kidding, it's too much work. On the webcast, you're just going to see Luis in a green costume. But the idea is that if we wanted to, he wouldn't be there. And they'd be like, wow, how amazing was that? Jason just summoned a toy hammer. Now, I am a geek. I'm a nerd. I'm a movie geek. I'm a comic nerd. And I have to tell you, Avengers Endgame came out a couple weeks ago. And I've already seen it 5 times. It is a 3-hour movie. And yes, it is 15 hours. I am glad to not get back. I got to be honest with you, in the first week, I saw it 4 times. I got to be really honest with you, in the first 3 days it came out, I saw it all 3 days in a row. I love Avengers Endgame. And all I can say is get ready for at the movies because we're going to have some fun. So all you need to know, though, is just, if you're confused right now, this is a hammer. We're on the same page. This is a hammer. Let's keep reading. The common laborers held a tool in one hand and a weapon in the other hand. Thank you, Luis. Thank you. Luis, everybody. If you're still confused, this is an axe. It's called the Stormbreaker. It also belongs to my favorite character, Thor. And if you've seen Endgame, you know what's happening right now. All right? If you haven't, it's a weapon. This is in the Bible. The common laborers held a tool in one hand and a weapon in the other. That's all you need to know. If you are lost right now and you don't understand how green screen technology works, it doesn't matter. I'm holding a tool in one hand and a weapon in the other. It's just the way I like to do it. If Pastor Mike or Pastor Jeff had done it, it would probably be different and easier to follow. But this is me. So, this is awesome. The common laborers held a tool in one hand and a weapon in the other. We can learn something from this story. This is a tool to build and a weapon to defend. These are common people. And for some reason we think common people sounds like an insult. It just means these are the normal people. These aren't like SWAT team. These aren't Navy SEALs. These are people like you and me trying to rebuild their life. And Nehemiah says, you know how we're going to do it? We're going to do it with a tool to build and a weapon to defend. And if you find yourself battling discouragement, you need to go to Toys R Us. Actually, is Toys R Us still alive? I'm not sure. And then you can rent Thor from Blockbuster. You need to get yourself a tool to build and a weapon to defend. Let's start by talking about a tool to build. Here's what I want you, when you get faced with a setback and you're discouraged because of it, I want you to look at that setback differently because setbacks reveal character. That's the first thing I want you to understand. Setbacks reveal character. In fact, let me give you a great example. One time I was driving with my friend. I'm not going to tell you his name because the story does not make him look good. But I'm driving with my friend. We're on the 5 freeway. We're going like 70 miles an hour, and he's texting as he's driving. And I know it's bad. I wasn't doing it. I was listening to the radio really loud. Now, he's driving and texting, and this lady pulls up next to us, we're on the freeway, and she sees my friend texting and driving, and she was mad, rightfully so. So she looks at us and starts pointing and yelling at my friend, get out the phone, get out the phone, right? And I'm thinking, you should have your eyes on the road, like get the plank out of your eye, lady, before you get the speck in my friend's eye. She's like yelling at him. Oh, I forgot to tell you, my friend was texting and eating peanuts while driving. So she was a little justified. So she's yelling at him, and I had never seen the side of my friend before, but he didn't like how she was like yelling at him. How dare she? So he rolls down the window, and I'm like, what's he gonna do? Like, she can't hear you. Is she gonna roll down her window, and we're just gonna like joust? He rolls down the window and starts throwing peanuts at her car. Peanuts are bouncing off the window. She gets so mad, she goes off speeding. She was speeding. Let's not forget that gold nugget. Man, I had never seen this side of my friend. But setbacks reveal character. You know, when I was a little kid, my kids' pastor was taking me up to camp. And he was like, you know, really clean-cut, good guy, never cussed, never said bad jokes, you know. And then we're driving to Portland, Oregon from San Diego. And we make it almost the whole way there, and he's being such a great example of a man of God, right? And someone cuts him off. My virgin ears. I heard stuff, creative stuff, he said stuff about their mom that I know can't be true. But setbacks reveal character. And what you gotta do is when you get hit with a setback and you begin to see another side of you, have you ever been surprised by yourself? Have you ever been like, I didn't know I had that in me? What it tells you is it's time to pick up a tool and start building some character. It's time to build. That setback has revealed your character and revealed that it's time to get your tool and build some character. And if you will do that, then your setback can become a setup. And that's the next thing I want to talk to you about. Setbacks become setups for success. I call this the $500 lesson. Let me explain. Years ago, I started a production company. And first of all, if you here have ever started a company, I have so much respect for you. I don't know how you do it and pay the bills. Starting a company, especially in California, is near impossible. Super, super hard. And I was struggling at the beginning, and I made a mistake that cost $500. And for some of you, that doesn't mean anything. But for me, I couldn't afford that. I was like, we're going bankrupt. I made a mistake that cost $500, and man, I was beating myself up about it. Like, you idiot. You're so stupid. You shouldn't have watched Shark Tank and got inspired. Because Shark Tank makes it look so easy. They don't tell you how hard it is. Just like, come up with a crazy idea, and people will pay for it. And you're like, okay, 20% for my children. What's happening? I don't understand how the negotiations work. All I know is I was inspired. And I made a mistake that cost $500, and I was beating myself up about it, which was only making me make more mistakes. And I had to stop myself and realize $500 is a cheap price to pay for a college course. In fact, if I can learn that lesson when it only cost me $500 and not when it costs $5,000, it will be worth the money I spent on that lesson. You gotta look at your setbacks and realize that they are merely lessons that you need to learn from. But when you do, it sets you up for success. And so you have a tool to build. But now let's talk about having a weapon to defend. This one's my favorite. A weapon notice that it says a weapon to defend, by the way. I want you to go from here and be like, Jason said I can attack people. It's a weapon to defend. Here's what, I'm gonna put this down real quick. We need to have a talk real quick. Often, sometimes what we do when people are being very discouraging in our life, we take it as a challenge to one-up them and respond to them. Let me give you an example. In the Bible, back in Babylon, there's this great story of these three amazing young men, Daniel's friends, and the king said, everyone needs to bow down and worship this golden statue. And these three dudes were like, no, we only worship God, so we're not gonna bow down. And the king was furious. He was like, I'm the king, how dare they? And so he has them dragged over to him. He looks at them, he says, listen, do you know who I am? I'm a king. I'm gonna give you another chance. You hurt my feelings, but I'm gonna give you another chance. We're gonna play the music, everyone's gonna bow, and if you don't bow, I'm gonna throw you in the fire. I'm gonna burn you alive. Ha! What do you think of that? What do you think about that? And they looked at the king and they said, we don't owe you an answer. I wish more people would do that on Facebook. You don't owe anyone an answer. Just because someone writes something negative on your post Don't waste your time with them. The weapon is not to attack. Nehemiah was never going to have them attack the people. Because actually, if he had, they would have been justified. Do you realize you justify the enemies in your life? People will say stuff to you, say stuff about you, and then when you answer back, they feel, see, I was right. I'm the good guy. The worst feeling to feel is feeling like the bad guy. So if you really want to get revenge, just let them sit in it. Let them say all they want about you, and you love them with kindness, and they feel that feeling of being the bad guy. That's the best revenge. Actually, that's what Psalm says. That's the best revenge. Because listen, if Nehemiah had attacked them, he would no longer be under the protection of the king, and he would have been beat. If you want to win, you grab a weapon to defend, not to attack. To defend what? To defend your heart. To defend your heart from discouragement. Let me explain. There's this amazing moment in Nehemiah chapter 8 where Nehemiah tells the people, listen, the joy of the Lord is your strength. I know you feel disappointed. I know you feel depressed and you feel down. But joy is going to be your strength. Don't let them take your joy. In fact, there's this beautiful verse in the book of Psalms. And it begins to explain what it would feel like to be the people of Judah coming home. They say this, when the Lord brought back the captives to Zion. Now Zion is the hill where their home was. So this is saying, when we got to go back home, we were like men who dreamed. Have you ever had a dream? Have you ever had a desire? And one day, it started happening and you felt like, wait, am I still dreaming? It feels surreal. You asked her to marry you and she said yes, and you're like, what was she thinking? We were like men who dreamed. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. They're coming home, they're on this big hike and they're singing and they're dancing and they can't wait to go home and they're filled with joy. And when they get home, that joy comes under attack. Because if he can get your joy, he gets your strength. You need to defend your heart. You heard the game Capture the Flag? This is a game called Capture the Joy. You have to defend your joy and defend your heart from disappointment. So I brought 7 weapons, 7 tools that you can use to defend your heart. Believe it or not, we're going to take some notes. I never do this, really. Maybe like one other time. But if you want, you can grab out your program. I put a bunch of lines. There's not really fill in the blanks, it's just lines. And I'm going to give you 7 tools. Now, when I tell you, these are ways you can defend your heart from disappointment. Now, when I start mentioning some of these, some of us are going to be like, duh, these are so obvious. These are so easy to do. And yet, if we be honest, we don't actually do them. Here's what I've learned in life. Things that are easy to do are just as easy not to do. We'll be like, oh, it's so easy to pray. It's so easy to read the Bible. It's so easy to go to church. And it's so easy not to. So just because these 7 things may seem like easy things, we really have to ask ourselves, are we doing them? Because they're very easy not to do. Number 1, take time to rest. Now listen to me. Often when you get hit with a setback and you're feeling discouraged, we feel like I need to do more. I need to do extra because I'm behind. I need to catch up. And so you take your tired self and you work overtime to try to fix things, and you find yourself making more and more mistakes because you're tired, and then you feel more discouraged, so you try to work even harder. And you think, I don't have time to rest. And the truth is, you don't have time not to rest. You need to take a moment and rest. And while you're doing that, that leads us to number 2. While you're resting, make a list of past successes. I want to tell you that every person in this room has done some awesome stuff. If you would be real with yourself, man, you were the bomb.com. Like, you've done some really good stuff. Like, life has hit you and you conquered it. You've done some awesome stuff. And even we've got amazing stories of how God has showed up and done amazing things. And then when life hits us hard, we forget all of that. And we think, I'm such a failure. I'm such an idiot. I'm such a loser. God, you're never there for me. God doesn't care about me. And you so easily forget all the amazing things that he did for you and all the amazing things that you've done. The Bible is filled with stories where the people would do something epic, or God would do something epic, and they were like, let's write that down. Let's put some rocks together and make a memorial. Make a list of past successes. It will encourage you in the times when you feel like a loser. Because the truth is, you're not. And you know why you're not a loser? Because you're here right now investing in your spiritual life. You're not a loser. You might have lost some stuff. You've made mistakes. That means you're a human and you're alive. Number 3, this is a big one, you guys. Stop comparing yourself to other people. And I know we're like, oh, I don't do this, but we kind of do. We compare our marriages to other marriages. We compare our kids to their kids. How come their kids are always smiling? We go on Facebook or Instagram and like, they're always on vacation. They're either really rich or have a ton of credit card debt. But I'm just going to pretend it's because they're really rich, and therefore I feel worse about myself. We keep comparing our journey to their journey. I brought an example of this. This has been here the whole time. Thankfully, the students didn't know. Your life is like a bow and arrow. And you should be concerned, because I don't know how to use this. Here's what we often do. We find someone who is our similar age, our similar journey in life, and we watch their story, and we get jealous because their story seems better than my story. For example, it's like you see them, and their life seems like they're always flying. I'm not going to shoot it yet, you guys. It's dangerous. They're always flying. They're always literally flying. Now they're in Hawaii, now they're at Disneyland, now they're here, now they're that. And it always feels like every time you go onto their social media page, they are always doing cool stuff. In the meantime, you feel you've never gotten to fly. You feel like you're just being stretched and stretched and stretched and never getting to go somewhere. You're like, God, when do I get to have fun? When do I get to fly? But let's do, you want to do some comparing? Let's do some comparing. If I take this guy here and go like that, that's the lamest thing I've ever seen. And we get jealous because most people's lives look like that. Oh, they're always doing stuff, but no one ever posts what's really going on. You don't wake up in the morning with like stuff on your lips and snot in your nose and your hair all over the place. Snap, hashtag no filter. You don't do that. No, you do your hair, your makeup, your lips. Snap, woke up this way. And you get jealous because other people are being fake about what's really going on. And their life is merely small moments where they're being stretched just a little bit, and you're jealous because you feel stretched so much. But can I show you something? When you get stretched, you go farther. Why are you jealous? Because of people who aren't going anywhere. God has been stretching you to take you where you've never been before. But you've got to let him stretch you, and it hurts. And it's so easy to get jealous. But he's got a target in mind. and it's a distance away, and it's going to make you sore, and it means he's going to make you sore in the process. He's got to stretch you. Stop comparing your life to other people. You're only going to discourage yourself. Because for a lot of people, they are the author of their own story. But I've got good news. God is the author of your story. And your story is going to look different than their story. So let him keep writing. Number 4, spend time with people who encourage. See, often when we feel discouraged, we find other people who are discouraged, and then we have a discouragement party. And we think it'll make us feel better, and we actually feel worse afterwards. And to be honest, sometimes we like being the victim, so we actually don't want to heal. I gotta be honest, when I was a little kid and I would get sick, my mom was so nice to me. The day before, she'd be like, Jason, clean the room, but now she's cleaning it. Now she's like, oh, Jason, are you warm? Let me get some cold water and put it on your head. I'm like, yes, Mom. Sometimes we enjoy being sick because we love the attention. We actually don't want to heal. We like people coming to us and being like, oh, now what's wrong? Oh, you poor thing. But you never grow when you stay sick. And that sickness begins to spread. You need to get a good support system. If you're a teenager, be a part of one of our tribes. If you're a young adult, we have a Friday night college and young adult ministry. If you're an adult, man, find a small group, be a part of Wednesday nights. Get yourself into a support system where people will encourage you and speak life into you. Number 5, clean and organize the messiness. Often when we're discouraged, we just don't have the energy to clean our house, clean our car, our office, our room. And then it starts feeling messy, and then when you walk into it, you just feel even more like a failure and even more discouraged. Take a moment, clean and organize that. Just check off that thing on your list, and you will find that as you walk into that room, you will feel better inside because of what the outside looks like. Clean and organize the messiness. Number 6, remember this: big victories begin with small wins. First of all, I want to talk to any of you right now who you are trying to get clean or get sober. I want to tell you that you are doing something that most people don't have the guts to do. And I am impressed by you, by your courage and by your bravery. I also want to tell you, you're probably going to make a mistake. And what we often do is we make that mistake, and then the enemy puts shame on us, and we give up. Big victories begin with small wins. Remember, the people were just laying one brick at a time. They didn't build that wall in a day. It was one brick, and there's going to be times where you take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but you keep building. You keep building because you're going to get there. That big victory isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to be several small wins. And that leads us to number 7. Never give up. And this sounds so easy to say, and yet it wasn't easy for me to say. As I sat there in that hospital room, laying on that bed, 3 days of no sleep, knowing what still was ahead of me. I just finished my 15th operation. And I knew what was coming next, 8 weeks of chemo and radiation. And I was in so much pain, and I couldn't think right, and I just wanted to quit. And I looked around the room, trying to find a way that I could kill myself. I was done with the pain. It is so easy to say, like, oh yeah, never give up. Sometimes it's not that easy. It is hard to wake up every day and have another battle. It is hard to wake up and have to fight for your children every day. to fight for that marriage every day. And there are times where you want to toss in the towel and quit. And I want to tell you, discouragement only wins if you give up. If you're here right now, it means you are already winning. See, you think because you got a divorce, it means you're a loser. It means you failed. You think just because your kids aren't following God, then you failed as a parent. You think because that company went under and you lost your house, you think you are a loser. But I'm telling you, if you are in this room and you are breathing right now, you didn't lose. Because the only way you lose is when you quit. The enemy can't beat you. Only you can beat yourself. If you're in this room, you might feel like you're on a setback, but the truth is it's because you began a comeback and you scared the enemy. He's more afraid of you than you are of him. He's scared of the potential that you have in this world. So he tried to convince you that you already lost. He tried to make you look at the score clock. He tried to make you think, look how behind you are in life. How old are you and you haven't accomplished all of this? Tries to make you think you've already lost when the game is still being played. And some of you haven't even put in your best player yet. You've been so busy trying to play the game by yourself. And you've got the number one player on the sideline waiting for you to let him get in the game and take over the story. And you want to quit? If you're going through discouragement right now, I want you to be encouraged. I want you to walk out of this room. Not yet, I'm still going. Some of you are rude. I want you to walk out of this room with your head held high because you haven't lost. In fact, if you're discouraged, it's because you're winning and he needs you to quit. You need to walk out of this room saying, all I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got Jesus on my mind. Never give up. You're not a loser. You're not a failure. You're in the middle of a comeback. You know, when I was in high school, I went through a bunch of stuff. It really broke my heart, and had so much discouragement. And so I wrote a song to encourage myself. I wrote this song, and when I got out of high school, I met this amazing guy. He was a friend. His name was Jimmy. Jimmy was an amazing musician. We began to write music together, and I showed him the song I had written in high school, and he loved it. He got out his guitar, and he began to play it, and one day we recorded it together. And then I got a phone. It was the only song we ever recorded together. And then I got a phone call, and they said, Jimmy drowned. I was like, what? Jimmy was swimming in La Jolla and he drowned. We're gonna have a funeral for him. It was up north. I couldn't make it to the funeral. But they told me, listen, he only recorded one song, and it was the song you wrote, so we're gonna play it at the funeral. And then I never played that song again. It's been 10 years. I never sang that song for anyone. I guess it was out of respect for Jimmy, I don't know. But as I was putting together this message today, it felt like it was time to sing that song again. I want you, as you walk out of this place today, I want you to pick up your hammer and your weapon and begin to build again. Begin to hope again. Begin to dream again. Begin to defend your heart from discouragement. To press on and to move forward. And to leave that disappointment behind. And I hope this song helps you. This song is called Leave the Pain Behind.
Day it came, it took your breath away, left you all alone to bleed. Day was dark, it broke your heart, couldn't find the strength to breathe. If you wanted to, you could fly, leave it all behind. But instead you close your mind, try to hide inside. You don't even have to hurt this way, you don't have to be afraid, everything will be okay. You gotta move on, and it's time to press on. Every once in a while, teach yourself to smile. It's time to leave the pain behind. Leave the pain behind, yeah. Ooh, ooh, oh, oh, yeah. Ooh, ooh, oh. Regret hurts, revenge is worse, like a poison inside of you, straight to the heart, it bears its curse, and the shame collides in you, yeah, yeah. You don't even have to hurt this way, you don't have to be afraid, everything will be okay. You gotta move on, it's time to press on. Every once in a while, teach yourself to smile. It's time to leave the pain behind. Leave the pain behind, yeah. Leave the pain behind. Leave the pain behind. Ooh, ooh, oh, oh. Ooh, ooh. Yes, I know, sometimes it hurts too much. You'd rather hide the past inside and hope to God it's enough. But if you wanna live, you gotta forgive and live. And if you wanna live, you gotta forgive and live. Yes, I know, sometimes it hurts too much. You'd rather hide the past inside and hope to God it's enough. But if you wanna live, you gotta forgive and live. And if you wanna live, you gotta forgive and live. Oh. You don't even have to hurt this way, you don't have to be afraid, everything will be okay. You gotta move on, and it's time to press on. Every once in a while, teach yourself to smile. It's time to leave the pain behind. Leave the pain behind, yeah. Leave the pain behind. Leave the pain behind. Ooh, ooh, oh, oh. Ooh, oh, 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 yeah. Oh, ooh, oh, oh. Ooh, ooh, oh, oh. Yes, I know, sometimes it hurts too much. You'd rather hide the past inside and hope to God it's enough. But if you wanna live, You gotta forgive and live. And if you wanna live, you gotta forgive and live. Leave the pain behind. Leave the pain behind. Leave the pain behind. Leave the pain